Hello everybody. Today's video is about a topic that I've been wanting to discuss with all of you for quite a while. It's one that I feel is very important. I have never seen a video that talks about this particular subject, discusses it, has brought it to light, and I think it's about time somebody did because it's important because it has to do with those in need and those who are trying to help those in need. I'm talking about food banks and shelters and people who donate to food banks and shelters. They donate food, they donate clothes, they donate shoes. They're donating all kinds of things to help those in need. And the abuse that goes on behind closed doors that you guys are not aware of. I have my own story of donation abuse that I want to share with all of you. I've been going to a food bank one street away from me for the past two and a half years. When I first started going to this food bank that I'm talking about, they had a system set up where you could go 4 days a week. If you needed all food all 4 days, you can go all 4 days. And you stood in a line, which was usually very long. Once you got to the front, they gave you a number. Once your number was called, you could go into the food room and pick only what you wanted, certain amounts of each. Once you were done getting your food, there was a small clothes room where you could pick 3 items of clothing and then go home. And that was your trip to the food bank. They started changing the policies within the food bank of how much people could take. It went from being able to go 4 days a week down to 1 day a week. And from being able to pick anything off the shelves per certain amount to they just gave you a bag of whatever stuff and that was your ration for the week. They also took away the clothes room in the food bank to where there's no more clothes room there anymore. But when it was active, when the clothes room was active, a lot of people would show up to the food bank very early in the morning and drop off their food and clothes and shoes donations for the needy and the homeless. You would see them 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning dropping stuff off, boxes and bags all over the place. To the point where people who worked within the food bank would tell me that they had boxes and bags stacked from ceiling to floor in one area of their warehouse. Just so many donations, they just didn't have room for them all. Which is not a bad thing. People in need stuff, they've got plenty. This is all good. I myself, being a dumpster diver in Freegan, I wanted to do my part to help the needy and the homeless, and I also wanted to give back to the food bank for the food that they gave me. I would go out and dumpster dive and find nice clothes and shoes and bring them all home and launder and clean them thoroughly, washing them by hand, making sure they were properly dried. Everything was clean. And I would bag everything up in big garbage bags and I would take them to the food bank in order for them to put the clothes and stuff in the clothes room for people who were in need. That was my way of giving back, and that was my way of saying thank you for helping me with my ration of food for the week. I would donate between 1 to 400 pounds of clothes and shoes every single month. And I did that like clockwork for over 2 years. What finally made me stop donating to that food bank and that shelter was when I found out some inside information from people who worked there, and also seeing different things that backed up the information they gave me. I found out that the people who worked in the clothes room, that whenever they would get donations in, they would go through the bags and the boxes, they would pick out all the choice, juiciest, designer, really nice stuff, and they would take it home for themselves, which I don't have a problem with, because if you need something and it's right there and it's free, you should take it because you need it. So I have no problem with that. If somebody in your family needs something and it's right there, you should take it. But what really made me angry was when I found out that those same people who worked in the clothes room, they weren't just taking clothes and shoes and things that they personally needed or people in their family needed. They were taking all the good stuff that was being donated and meant for the homeless. They were taking those things and using them for yard sales and selling them on eBay. Yep, they were taking stuff out of the food bank and turning around and selling them for a profit. Now that I have a problem with, because if that stuff, if the people who were donating it wanted it to be sold, if they wanted it to be sold for money, they would have done it themselves. They were donating those things to help people in need, and that's exactly what those things should be used for. So that really pissed me off. When I heard that, that pissed me off. What further burned my chaps was, remember those bags of clothes I told you about that I donated, big garbage bags? There were more than one occasion I would donate the bags on one day and come back to the food bank, and I would check their dumpsters all the time because they were notorious for just throwing things away that were still good, and I would often fish them out. On more than one occasion, I found big garbage bags of clothes that I donated in the dumpster. It didn't even look like they'd been gone through. They would just throw them into the trash. That made me incredibly angry because that stuff was meant for people who are homeless and in need. I gathered that stuff with the homeless and the need in mind. I took everything home and washed it and cleaned it thoroughly. They weren't dirty. They didn't smell. I made sure of that. Why was that stuff in the dumpster? It's because they were lazy and didn't want to put it on hangers. They had so much in the way of donations that instead of letting people take more stuff out of the clothes room to kind of go through all the donations and make room for more, they would rather throw it away. They'd rather throw it away. And the people who are in need aren't going to have access to it. That's when I stopped donating, because I realized that all of the donations that were being made to this place, the people who were in need were not getting hardly any of that. They were getting a small portion. All the good stuff was being rifled through and taken home by those who worked there and even sold on eBay and in yard sales. So why am I going to donate to a place like that, knowing that? That was the reason. That's when I said, you know what? No more. I'm not donating anything else. They still put out a rack of clothes for people, which stays basically empty. But back when the clothes room was active, they were being really shysty about taking things and taking them home and selling them on eBay and garage sales. And like I said, I went through their dumpsters more than once and I found lots of great stuff that should have been put out for the public and was not. I'm sure that there are a lot of people who are going to be watching this video and you have a good heart. You donate to food banks, you donate to shelters. God bless you. The world needs more generous people like yourself, whoever you are, more good people. I'm not saying don't stop donating to people. I'm saying just change the way you do it. If you are watching this video and you're saying, well, that just, everything you just described about what goes on behind the scenes sounds awful, I still want to donate, so how do I do it? The solution is simple. If you have clothes and shoes and you want to make absolutely damn sure that the public gets to that stuff, that they're not being used for another purpose they were not intended, I totally suggest putting the clothes and putting the shoes in boxes, and when the food bank is open and people are lined up, take that stuff directly to the line and go, I've got clothes and I've got shoes and I've got food, so who wants it? I'm pretty sure everybody who's in the line will be glad to take that stuff. By the way, 2 things about food banks that you guys should know. Number 1, about the food. If you're someone that you donate food to a food bank, because it came from a personal household, they will never put it out on the floor because they don't know if that food is tainted. They don't know if it's dangerous or toxic. Even if it's bagged up, if it is boxed up or it's in a can and it's perfectly safe. Because it came from a personal household, they won't take it and put it out on the floor for everybody else. They'll accept the donation, but they'll keep all the food in the bag for a while and then they'll throw it away. And if you do a closed donation, if you drop off a bag or a box and they open the bag or the box and a waft of just it's smelly, it's dirty, and they can tell, they'll throw it directly into the dumpster because they have to. It's dirty, it's nasty. They're not going to put it out for the public. So if you drop off a food or a food donation, it's probably not going to end up to the public that you want it to. And if it's a closed donation, if it's dirty, they won't even bother with it. So whatever clothes you drop off to people, make sure they're clean. Otherwise, they won't be accepted or it'll be thrown away. So in closing, if you are a freegan, if you are a dumpster diver, and you want to help the homeless and the needy in your community, and you want to do it through donations of food or clothing or shoes, best to go directly to the public rather than just dropping your stuff off at a food bank or a shelter and expecting that they'll distribute everything. They may be good people and they may do exactly that, but on the other hand, they may not. They may be taking some of the good stuff you drop off and taking it home for themselves or selling it for a profit somewhere, because that happens. If my food bank is doing it, then I'm pretty sure that there's more. You just don't know which ones do that. I know for a fact that thrift stores like Goodwill, they've gotten hip to the fact that a lot of people are making a living or trying to make a living by going into thrift stores and finding things for a low price and then turning around and flipping them for double on sites like eBay. So what they're doing is they're doing 2 things. They're, one, raising the prices of all their stuff to the point where it's ridiculous. They're asking brand new prices for old and used and free donated stuff. And 2, if they find anything that's worth anything, they won't put it out on the floor for the common public. They put it on their website. And yes, Goodwill does have a website. That's where all the good stuff ends up. That's how they're dealing with people who are trying to make a profit and trying to make a living by selling low-cost stuff for a higher price. So if you're someone that you donate, whether it's a food bank or a shelter or a thrift store, think hard about what you donate and where, because your good intention may not make it to the finish line. It may not make it there. And by no fault of your own. It's just that you weren't aware that those that you trusted could not be trusted. That they're taking your stuff and selling it for a profit, and those who are in need, those who are homeless, are not able to get to your stuff. They're not being given access to it. So I hope you guys found this video informative. I hope that whoever you are, if you donate goods, that perhaps you will consider taking the goods and the food to those who need it directly versus indirectly, and going third party about it, because sometimes they may get the stuff, sometimes they may not. And I hope that this video has given you guys something to think about, and have a great Sunday.